Yo, 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 what's up? This is Terminator with Epic Gaming, bringing you another video guide on the Soul Shrine dungeon. Most of you guys have been clearing this dungeon on a regular basis in the regular adventure runs where you're using up your stamina. This is the first time for me where I've seen this in an Overlord dungeon setting. This particular event is called the BLACKHOLE event. I'm not really sure how that's any different than the Overlords, other than maybe it's a little bit harder. But I'm with a group of guildies here, and we just cleared this dungeon pretty easily. And so I just wanted to post a quick little video, show you the approach that we took to defeat each of these three bosses. And so here we just pulled the first boss, Dorothy. And the key to this fight is you want to make sure that you place the dolls on one side of the room, and then you want to tank the boss on the other side of the room. The reason being is you want to make sure that the dolls don't die. And once the dolls are placed, the boss is going to do two mechanics, a red ring, and then a cross AoE that if it touches the dolls will die, and if the dolls die, the group will wipe. And so as you can see here, we've placed the dolls along one side of the wall here, and now we're bringing the boss to the opposite side of the room. So that way the ring mechanic that you see going on right now will not be in the vicinity of the dolls, and the dolls will be safe. Right after this mechanic, there's going to be a cross mechanic. It looks like a plus sign or a cross, depending on how you want to look at it. But as long as the boss is on the opposite side of the room from where the dolls are, this little cross mechanic that you see here will not reach the dolls, and the dolls will be safe. And so once you do that, it's basically rinse and repeat. We're all about to get the red AoE circles again. There it is. And so you want to make sure you separate. You don't want to be overlapping with any other players. Otherwise, if you get caught within two AoE circles, you will die. But after the AoEs are done, they will drop a doll. And so it's happening here again. This sometimes happens. It happens twice. Like you'll drop the dolls. You think you're ready to go, and then it'll make you re-drop them. And so anyway, we've dropped them on one side of the room. There's a shared damage mechanic that happens right after that. It's pretty easy as long as everyone stacks on the boss. But once the shared damage mechanic is over, then you want to bring the boss to the other side of the room. So it looks like we're done with the share mechanic here, and then the boss should come to the other side of the room. You'll see that along with the red ring there, we got some living bombs around each of the players. Luckily, those are cleansable by the healer. So healers, make sure that you guys are cleansing those living bombs, and this makes this a pretty simple fight in general. And so pretty soon here, we're going to see another cross, and again, as long as the boss is on the opposite side of the room from where you placed the dolls, should be no problem. And then in a second here, we're all going to get red AoE circles, which means that we need to place dolls again. There's the message regarding sheer damage, so everyone stacks on the boss, get through this little sheer damage mechanic. And then once the sheer damage mechanic is over, just like before, and then we're going to pull the boss to the other side of the room. You'll notice that the boss level here is level 82, which is why this group is doing a lot more DPS than you would normally see in a Overlord dungeon. We're all pushing 1 million or close to 1 million here each DPS per second. So, burning the boss down is relatively easy as long as you kind of execute these mechanics, which are really, relatively simple. And there's living bombs. Lollipop is one of our archons. She's a great healer, so she cleanses the living bombs. You can see that red ring there is nowhere near the dolls, so that's good. Pretty soon here, we're going to get the cross mechanic. And so there's a cross mechanic, living bombs as well, which got cleansed, and that's pretty much the fight. So this next fight, boss number 2, Bruce, I would say is easier than the first boss. I like to think of this second boss as a game of opposites. And so there's a truth mechanic and a false mechanic, and you'll get these little messages in the center left of your screen. It's either going to say a realm of emptiness or it's going to say truth. And so when it says realm of emptiness, as like it says right now, you want to make sure that if you see an AoE that you actually stand in it. And if you see share damage, that you don't share damage. So you basically want to do the opposite of what you would normally do in a fight. And so right now it says realm of emptiness. An AoE just spawned in the room. And so everyone is getting inside of the AoE, otherwise you'll die. And so hence the word, that's why I call this kind of the fight of opposites, right? You want to do the opposite of what you're normally used to doing. Only when it says realm of emptiness. Next, you're gonna see this little message here that says Bruce will imitate the player. It says that Bruce will imitate the player that's the farthest away, but because it says realm of emptiness, it actually means he's gonna imitate the person closest to the boss. So basically, you want to make sure that he doesn't imitate the same class 2 times in a row. And so right now, the person closest to him, which normally is going to be the tank, and in this case, we have an Archon who is always going to be on top of the boss. You want to make sure that that person doesn't imitate twice. And so anyway, you'll notice here that the message just changed to true territory. This basically means that you want to make sure that you do what you would normally do when it comes to AoEs and sheer damage. So when it says true territory, you want to make sure you get out of AoEs like you normally would. And then you also want to make sure that if there's shared damage, that you're actually sharing damage. So true territory, you do what you normally would do. A realm of emptiness, you want to do what you normally wouldn't do. And so here is realm of emptiness. In this case, you want to make sure that you stand inside of AoEs and you don't share damage. And there's a message where Bruce is going to start imitating players. Because it's realm of emptiness, he's going to be imitating the persons closest to him. He just imitated our healer. And so our healer right now, if you can find her here, it's kind of hard to see, but she's making sure that she is not the person nearest the boss. So we got some AoE, we got some share damage. Because it says realm of emptiness, we want to make sure that we're standing inside the AoE and we're not sharing damage. Now the message just turned to true territory. Again, when it says true territory, you do the fight like you would normally do with any other fight. You get out of AoEs, and if there's a share damage mechanic, you want to make sure you share damage. So here he just imitated the tank again, and we want to make sure that the tank doesn't get imitated 2 times in a row. And so true territory, you make sure we get out of AoEs, which we did a good job there. So now the message just changed to realm of emptiness. So as you can see that it constantly changes. And so you want to be on your toes, on your game, and paying attention to these messages. But right now it says realm of emptiness. And so we're making sure that we are not standing in we are standing in AoEs, and we are not sharing damage. So again, because it's realm of emptiness, we want to make sure that we're standing inside the AoEs, and we're making sure that nobody is sharing damage. So all in all, pretty much easy fight as long as you kind of focus in, paying attention to whether it says true territory or realm of emptiness. And if it says true territory, you play the fight like you normally would, sharing damage, getting out of AoEs. And then if it says realm of emptiness, you want to do the opposite of what you would normally do, which means don't share damage and stand inside AoEs. So I would say that out of these 3 bosses, Bruce is probably the easiest boss. By far, the hardest boss in this dungeon is the last one, which is Michelle. And so there's a lot of mechanics going on here, and let me go ahead and walk you through them. And so that way, when you guys enter this dungeon with your teams, you can be in a better position to beat it. So the first thing you want to watch out for is there's a shared damage mechanic where 3 players will either get marked with blue or yellow, and then the other 2 will get marked with yellow. And it's pretty simple here. You just want to make sure that all the people with the blue text share damage, and all the people with the yellow text share damage. The next mechanic here is you're going to see a message that's, oh, we got ads. Actually, the next mechanic are the Shadow Sisters. And so when the Shadow Sisters spawn, you want to make sure that you interrupt the Shadow Sisters, because if you don't interrupt the Shadow Sisters, it's going to spawn an ad that actually tethers to a player. And so we're not ready for that ad to spawn just yet, because as you can see, these purple puddles are dropping around the room. We want to make sure that there's at least 8 purple puddles that have dropped before we get the ad that spawns. So if you see in the center left of that screen there, right now it says 13%. It's going to grow eventually to 100%. And once it grows to 100%, that ad I was just talking about is going to spawn, and it's going to tether to someone. And whoever it tethers to, that person's job is to run that ad across the purple puddles. And so here we got the shared damage mechanic again. We want to make sure all the blue people are standing together and all the yellow people are standing together. The next mechanic is going to be the Shadow Sisters. So 2 Shadow Sisters will spawn. You want to make sure that the DPSers are splitting up the 2 sisters, killing both of them and making sure that they get interrupted. So as you can see, Arthanis just interrupted one of the sisters, and Phi was able to intercept the other one. The next mechanic here is this, you got to step in the poison mechanic. It's going to say something to the effect of stand in the tainted puddles. And you want to make sure that you actually stand. So there it goes, be tainted with the scent of Shadow Domain now. And so basically all you got to do on this mechanic is you want to step inside the purple puddle and then jump out. You'll get a debuff, but apparently that debuff actually protects you against this large AoE that just happened. I'm not sure if you saw that. And then this next mechanic here is a frontal AoE cone with living bombs. And then that's pretty much it. And then it kind of rotates after that. And so next up, we got the shared damage. We want to make sure all the yellows stand together. And then we want to make sure all the blues stand together. Next up is going to be the Shadow Sisters. And so you want to make sure that the DPS is split up on each of the sisters, and you want to make sure that you interrupt them, so that unless you're ready for the ad to spawn. And so there's the Holy Light Sister. Looks like I've been linked, and so basically, as you can see, I'm tethered, and so my job now is just to lure this Holy Light Sister, so that way she runs across the puddles. It's pretty easy. You just make sure, as long as the puddles are placed nicely, it's not a problem. And then as soon as she destroys 8 of the puddles, all of the puddles in the room will disappear, and we can go back to fighting the boss. And so all the puddles are gone, and so that's what I would call kind of the first phase. And so the next phase here, we should have a shared damage phase. And so again, you want all the blues to stand together. And then next we're going to have Shadow Sisters, where all the DPS are split up, 1 on each sister, making sure that we're interrupting while we're burning them down. And the next up is the big AoE attack, where you have to stand inside the purple puddle to get the debuff in order to survive the AoE. And so there's the message there. So when you see that message, you want to stand inside the purple puddle. You can see the darkness attacks debuff that I just got, which allows you to survive that AoE that just happened. And then after this, the last mechanic here is a frontal AoE that he does. And then there's living bombs. These living bombs aren't cleansable, but they actually don't do that much damage. You just want to make sure, as with all living bombs, that you don't get caught inside 2 of them. And then it's just basically rinse and repeat after that. We got the share damage mechanic where you want all the colors to be together. Next, we're going to have Shadow Sisters. So DPSers are splitting up between the sisters, making sure that we interrupt. If you don't interrupt, it's going to spawn the Holy Light Sister, which again tethers to a player, and you got to bring them over the puddles. And so we weren't exactly ready for that, but as you can see right now, if you look at the room, there's a lot of puddles, and so we're probably ready to let that Holy Light Sister spawn. And so during the next shadow phase, our group decided to not interrupt the Shadow Sisters, and then to allow for the Holy Light Sister to spawn, so that way we can clear the room of all the poisons. But here's the living bomb mechanic with the frontal AoE. So as you can see, the living bombs didn't do too much damage. Next up is going to be share damage. So all the blues are grouping up, and all the yellow boxes are grouping up as well. And so the Shadow Sister phase is up next, and here we are not going to interrupt them. We want them to get their skill off, which will spawn the Holy Light Sister. So as you can see, their boss just enraged, but luckily it enraged around 12%, which is all we need. 800k, 700k. I was only doing 620. The tank was doing about 200, and the healer was doing about 100. That resulted in an enrage at around 12%, which it's not too bad, especially if you have a good tank that can withstand the attacks. And so we were able to burn it down here, the last 12%, despite the boss being in an enraged state. There you have it, guys. So that was basically the fight. Not too bad. Obviously, it's mechanic heavy, but these days in World of Kings, what dungeon isn't mechanic heavy? As long as you understand what each player's role is, what you're supposed to do, it ends up being actually a relatively straightforward fight. And so I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you learned something, please give me a like. And if you think you like my videos, please subscribe. Otherwise, if you're looking for a guild, Epic Gaming is currently recruiting. We'd love to have you guys join up, and we can clear some of these dungeons together. Thank you very much, guys. Peace out. Yeah, you know what we is. Sometimes you gotta stay.